Hello, welcome to video training. We'll be covering accounts receivable level 1, chapter 3, end of month procedures. Okay, from the main menu, select accounts receivable. What we're going to be covering here is three major functions. At the end of every month, if you're billing customers, you probably would want to do an aging. After your aging, you're going to want to calculate finance charges. If somebody's not paying their bills, you need to charge them a finance charge. And third, you want to print statements. Statements can be emailed or they can be sent through the mail. Okay, let's start with step number 1. It's the end of the month. I want to run my aging. Select Age Receivables. Now, the computer is going to look at the current date you're in. This happens to be we're in April. So what the computer is assuming, because it looks and sees that I'm in April, normally 99.9% of most dealers run their aging probably right at the very beginning of the next month. In this case, it's the 10th of this month. I'm running my aging for last month. So it defaults and puts the date in. It says, okay, I assume that because you're in April, you're doing your aging for the 31st of March. Now, you can change these dates to whatever you wish. And it's going to put it into aging groups. And it's basically saying, okay, age group 4 is anything that you owe me money past 11/30/07. If you want to change these dates, you can. You can age it any way you wish. The norm or the standard in the industry is when you're doing an aging and when you're printing statements is it's normally done at the end of every month. And it's normally done, obviously, at the very beginning of the first month, or it could be done the last day of the month. But typically it's done, a little bit into the beginning of the month so you can post any checks that might have come in and get everything right up to date. So anyway, let's just take the defaults, but keep in mind you can change those dates to whatever you wish. And it went through my accounts receivable, aged all my accounts, and now it's basically saying, okay, you'll only see this message if in fact you have any what we call unallocated payments or credits. What this means is that somebody put in a payment or a credit and they didn't say what it was for. They put into a customer, but they didn't actually pick the invoices for. So let's take a look and see. So we've got Mike Dicker. Somebody put in a credit memo for 3/16, and they didn't say what it was for. So if you wish, you could go into Mike Dicker, allocate that to the appropriate invoice that it was for. Now, keep in mind, when somebody put this in, they elected not to allocate it. Typically, if you're a dealer where you just put everything into the oldest invoice, you pretty much won't see this stuff because you're just putting it into the oldest invoice and the computer's going to do it automatically. When you're going to see this is when somebody actually consciously went in there and said, hey, I don't know what it's for, but I'm just giving this person a $3 credit. You don't need to allocate it, but it's recommended that you do. Now we've aged our receivables. Next, what we want to do is calculate finance charges. So let's select finance charges. It's going to ask me some general ledger questions. It's asking me, this is my finance charge account. Now, the next question is, what do you want to charge finance charges on? There again, the computer assumes that you just ran an aging for, the 31st. I assume that you want to run finance charges that anybody that owes you a balance past 30 days. Well, 30 days is 228. If it was 60 days, you'd select here. Obviously, the computer's doing what the norm is. The norm is you charge people interest after the bill is past 30 days. If that's not the case, you can select any option you wish. And you can key in any date you wish. So we're going to go with the defaults there again. It's asking me what's the date that you want to put in the customer's file that these finance charges occurred. Basically, I am going to put the 31st. What that means is that customer is going to get a bill, a statement, and he's going to see that, okay, I'm charging you X amount of dollars because you have an outstanding balance, and this is the date that I'm charging it for, the 31st. Now, what's the percentage that you want to charge? Now, there again, it'll save the percentage that you type in. So I'm making that 5%. The next time I do this, it's going to come back up to 5%. The first time you do this, it's probably going to be 0. So once you key it in the first time, whatever your standard percentage is, it'll save it and you'll never see that again. It'll just come up and have that in there again. Okay, the next question is, okay, I am going to list everybody that I'm going to run a finance charge on the screen, and I'll be able to pick and choose whether I really want to do it or not. What order do you want to see that on the screen? By customer number, by customer code, in alphabetical order, so it really doesn't matter. Now, what this is listing is every customer that owes me money past 30 days and is going to have a finance charge calculated. If we look at this, it's going to calculate $342 worth of finance charges if I run it just the way it is now. If you read the bottom of the screen, it says F12 to process finance charges. That means it's going to do exactly this. It's going to go out to each one of these customers and charge them this amount of money. If you also read here, it says left click to remove the finance charge. So if in fact I'm looking at Tom Brady and I'm saying, gee, I don't want to charge him that $17, I can do that. And it's off. Notice that went down to $325. Maybe I want to take this Larry Bird, that's $100. That went down to $216. Notice the ones that are dark blue. They're the ones that will not get finance charges. If I change my mind, I made a mistake, I can select it again, and now it's back on again. Now, notice the other thing. It says right-click. Maybe I want to right-click something. Maybe I'm going to right-click it, and now I can look at the exact detail. I can see everything. What is it that's outstanding? Obviously, he's got some invoices that are pretty old. He needs to pay me. I need to calculate a finance charge here. You can select any of these items, obviously like we've done in the past, and see the exact detail. Reprint the invoice. So you can check anything out you want and get it any level you want. Okay, so maybe we're going to make some selections here. We don't want that, we don't want this. Now keep in mind, if you have a customer that's popping up here all the time, and you just never want to charge him finance charges, because he, for some reason or another, maybe, he's somebody that you made arrangements with, you're just not going to charge him finance charges, then what you want to do is go into his customer maintenance record, and remember there was a check mark there that says do not calculate finance charges. Finance charges, yes or no. Say no, and that person will never show up on this list. So if you find yourself always clicking the same person, well, I never charge him finance charges, then make it so he doesn't appear on the list. And that's very important. You don't want to be wasting time doing things every single month. Okay, so I've done everything I want to do here. The ones in white, obviously, you're going to have finance charges. I'm going to have $302 worth of finance charges. I'm going to hit F12, and now my finance charges are now calculated. If I look at any of those customers, and I'm just going to type in Bird, there's my finance charge of $108 on 3/31/08. Okay, so we've done our aging. We've calculated finance charges. Now what we want to do is send out a statement. I want to get paid. Customer statements, right here. When you run customer statements, it's giving you some various options. Obviously, the default is what you normally want to do. I want to run statements for all my active accounts. Obviously, anybody that owes me money, I want to send a statement. I want them to pay. This button here is going to say statements for past due accounts. In other words, maybe I want to run statements for anybody that owes me money past 90 days or 120 days. Because on those people, I want to put a separate message at the bottom of the thing that says, hey, you've got 10 days to call me, or my lawyer is going to be calling you. This will print statements for all current accounts. So we want to just print statements for anybody that owes me money here. And there again, it's going to ask me the same question. It's going to list everything before it does it. It's going to say, okay, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. You can pick and choose what you want. Do you want to see that by number or by name? It doesn't really matter. If you picked a number, you can narrow it down. Now the next question is, okay, do you want to print statements for anybody that is less than a certain amount? Maybe if they owe me less than $1, it's not worth the time to print the paper and put it in an envelope. So I'm going to say I only want to print statements for people that owe me more than $1. And now it's coming up. And there again, it's defaulting because it says, okay, you're in April. I assume you want to run statements for the end of March. These are the normal dates that you'd have. These are the normal categories that you'd be using. There again, 99% of most people, that's what they want to do. But you can change these dates to be whatever you want. Now, this date here, what this date reflects is the normal statement run. Normally, when you get a bill in the mail, what it'll say previous balance, X, and then I'll have listed everything that happened in current. In other words, what this is saying is that I am going to print all the detail that came in from 331 to 301 to 331. That's what's going to print on your statement. Everything that's prior to 228 is going to say previous balance, which is what your standard statement normally does. So it'll say if somebody didn't pay an outstanding bill, it'll say, okay, as of 228, you owed me $1,000. This month, it'll list every single action that happened. For example, maybe they sent you a $500 check. Well, that will be listed. Maybe they had 3 or 4 more invoices. Those would be listed. So all the current detail that happened between 301 to 331 will be printed on this statement. Now, if they came in on 4/2, that's not going to show up here. That's not going to show up here unless I change the date. If I want it to show up, obviously I can. But this is the normal statement. You're running it for the end of the month. I want to see previous balance. If I want to see everything, I can also change this date. If you change that date, keep in mind, if you have customers with a lot of activity, you will have multiple pages. Okay, over here we're going to say, please. Okay. This is listing all the people that are going to get a statement. It's the same thing. If we hit F12, it's going to print a statement for each one of these customers. If we want to look at the detail, we can right-click. We can look at the detail. We can click on any particular line item, check out whatever we want to check out. If I don't want to print a statement, there again, I may say no statement for him, no statement for him, no statement for him. And it's not going to print statements. Now, there again, it's the same exact thing as we talked about finance charges. If you have people appearing on here on a regular basis every month that you never want to print statements for, then go into their record and click on the box that says I do not want to print a statement, and they will not show up on this list. So, obviously, all the ones that are dark blue, we're not going to print statements. I'm going to hit F12. We are now going to print all our statements. And here's our message on the bottom. Here's our detail. The detail we have here is that's their balance. We obviously charge them a finance charge of $4.99, and obviously there's their new balance. These are designed so you can put them in window envelopes, so that when you print your statements, you should be able to just fold them, put them in window envelopes. In our Getting Started Guide, Accounts Receivable has the list of envelopes that will work with it, or you can call a support staff. You can buy the envelopes in any stationery store, Staples, any of these inexpensive stationery stores, but it's much better to use window envelopes rather than do labelings and things like that. They're also designed so when it prints the statement, they can tear the top off. They can send the top in with their check or their credit card information, and at that point, you're going to be posting payments. Okay, so those are the 3 major steps that you want to do at the end of the month. There's one other thing that we're going to mention here. If you're a dealer that does recurring billing, you'll probably want to go to chapter 4 and look at recurring billing. What recurring billing is, and you may or may not do this. For example, if you're in the marine business, you may have slips that you rent out. You may rent them monthly. You may rent them weekly. You may rent them quarterly. You may have dry storage. You may have contracts with people. They could be yearly, monthly, whatever. If you're in the service business, you might have service contracts with certain companies where they pay you a monthly fee, or a weekly fee, or a yearly fee, or a quarterly fee. If you're doing those types of charges, those types of things, then by all means go to chapter 4, I believe it is, and read the section or listen to the section that says recurring billing. That would be one extra step that you would do at the end of the month. If you do have like monthly billings that you're going to do, you'd be setting that up in recurring billings. There again, we're not going over that because many dealers may or may not be using it. So if you are using it, obviously by all means, look at chapter 4 and go over that section. Okay, this concludes this section of the training.